Welcome friends, this is episode 4, round 2 ranking results and predictions overview for Queendom 2. And so, this episode of Queendom started about 10 minutes later than usual. In all the usual places you had stream chats and comment sections wondering just who at Mnet forgot to press play. But it eventually happened and, I wonder if it was just a technical error, or if maybe the networks decided to front load the advertisements this time around. Regardless, it did eventually start and then the show went on. So once the show did start, there were some brief thoughts from all the groups talking about how good they wanted to do during the cover round. Also as just a way to pay honor to the other contestants as well. It was very positive overall. There were also coverage of kind of worldwide chatter on the performances that we have already kind of seen so far, the first 3, including a tweet from Cardi B on how she liked Luna's performance. And then, just the general commentary just saying that Luna's performance was like a Broadway show. But then after that, we continued and we resumed the remaining round 2 performances, so let's just get right into it. I had high expectations for VIVIZ, and the previews from the previous episode made it seem like they were going to do something incredibly sexy or sultry. During the prep, the girls indicated that Hyolyn's performance made them realize they needed way more color and to use more of the stage. When rehearsing or practicing, they covered some struggles with Sin B rapping for the first time, and G getting some more direction on how to do her parts, but they ultimately came out well. But then they also showed Eunha, and she was having a difficult time with the vocals as well as her dance sections. The chat felt especially sad for her during this, and then for their song, they ended up choosing Unnatural. In terms of the actual performance, it started off a little bit odd for me. With the camera being kind of focused on them for the sake of the people at home, rather than really for the whole performance in general. I just think that it was just an odd start, but then it improved near the middle of the section. They did have a very busy stage, but in my opinion, the best parts of the performance were when they were dancing together as a complete group. Individually, only Sin B stood out to me, but then I found it interesting that later on by the end of the performance, because of her struggles, especially with the poor leg spin, Eunha cried, not feeling like she was living up to her roles. Now overall, I think the performance lost some momentum in the beginning section, and then due to the inconsistency of the performance and the performers, unfortunately, I just couldn't rate this higher than a 7.7. And to me, the idea and stage dressings all looked good. This is what I said they should do. But, it ultimately felt unsupported in the actual execution. And then going back to my previous criticism of them saying they weren't emoting well enough or connecting, I still kind of felt the same way, to be honest. And so VIVIZ has still failed to kind of give me a performance that I really enjoyed so far. And up next is Kep1er. Kep1er's prep section was pretty amusing. While trying to choose a song, they had considered We Ride and had difficulty explaining Ennui to the members. In one reenactment, Shen Xiaoting actually got upset with the fictional character in the example they were trying to make. After realizing it was beyond their ability and experience, they chose Pool Party and remixed in a little bit of Rollin'. There was also a highlight of Hikaru and Dayeon's rap sections. The actual performance was very fun and bubbly. They made a good use of prop and screens, and the stage direction was well planned. I still noticed some precision and sync issues, and they weren't totally clean, but apparently they had some stage issues with a wet floor, and Dayeon actually tripped and fell into the audience before quickly recovering. Personally, I didn't notice this directly. Hyolyn did notice this, where the other groups didn't. I actually thought the performance went very well, though. It was interesting, and the big dance number elevated the score for me. Last week, I claimed that if they did everything I expected conceptually, they could take the whole prize. But if they lacked precision and sync, they would probably rate below Luna. And I gave them an 8.5 this round. That was what I felt it out to, which I think is very high. But most of that is just for fun and enjoyability. I always assume that scoring from this week will be disconnected from the last week's scoring based on me just having a refreshed perspective and 7 days to ruminate on it. But, I checked the score for Luna last week, and I actually gave them an 8.6. So Kep1er falling below them while having precision and sync issues is interestingly just in line with what I laid out as a scenario for last week. But I actually thought that gap would be bigger if that was the reason why. They really thought big this week, but they could use some polish to make sure they are using the props and stage design effectively, so it doesn't look kind of like an outdoor theater and kind of like more like a professional indoor Broadway act. Now, when it came to Hyolyn, she chose So What for her song. She wanted to emphasize herself as a solo figure rather than drawing on the version of herself from the Sistar days. Since she chose a Luna song, she had to adapt a 12-person song for one, and I found it interesting how she recorded all the harmonies herself from her home. It looked like her home, a private studio at least, and I gained mad respect for just how much work and effort she put into this all by herself. And even as the mastermind, she was like leading others. So in choosing Catwoman theme and then learning the hoop, I could see just how much dedication she has to even just acquiring the means to achieve a vision for the sake of one performance. During the So What performance, I was impressed at the start at just seeing her with high heels and each stem firmly placed within the edges of the ring. From a technical perspective, she was flawless, and creatively, she had a nice variety of turns and also small moments to capture the audience. I did feel there were about 3 points over where she was singing and not doing much choreo, that it felt a little bit dragged. This reminds me of commentary on her preliminary stage, where the camera was a single shot, and I thought the performance suffered. Compared to her first round performance, I wouldn't say this was perfect, but I would still rate this one very high just for the execution alone. I gave it a 9.2 for performance excellence, and this round, she actually became Team Iceland. Of all the performances, I think Luna's was one I would feel more likely to watch a repeat of, but Hyolyn was just undeniably better for a single viewing. In my personal rankings for this round's performance, I'd place Hyolyn in first place with a 9.2, I'd place Luna in second place with an 8.6, Kep1er is in third place with an 8.5, Brave Girls were in fourth place with an 8.2, the Cosmic Girls came in fifth with a 7.8, and then VIVIZ came in sixth place with a 7.7, just barely trailing behind the Cosmic Girls. Now, what this means score-wise, in terms of my own scores, were that everyone had improvement since round 1, except for the Cosmic Girls, who dropped from a 9.1 to a 7.8 in trying to do over the first round, but maybe with a mismatched concept or a song that didn't quite reach the levels of epicness that their performance may have demanded. Kep1er drastically improved, using only their strengths and passion, despite their inexperience and precision flaws that I'm constantly harping on about. So now we get to the show-based rankings, and the first thing we go through is the self-evaluations. And so, in self-evaluations, the competitors vote for each other by choosing someone above them and someone below them. And strangely enough, in this show, you can choose nobody to be above you. And you would always choose someone to be below you. And that's a competitive angle that they take. And so, in terms of the self-evaluation, Cosmic Girls voted for Hyolyn to be above everyone. But no one else voted above them this time. Not even Kep1er. They decided to be kind of selfish this round. And so they voted for nobody is above them, meaning everyone else said that no one was better than them. Now, in terms of the people saying who is below you, you have Cosmic Girls and Brave Girls having 500, which is the lowest you can get. And that's because each of them got 2 below votes. Whereas Luna and Kep1er got only like 1 below vote. And then VIVIZ got no below votes this time. They came through unscathed. I don't know why, but I'm thinking that last round, when Sinbi had so many negative reactions to getting kind of pummeled, I think that maybe people kind of laid off them this time. So that's why you have this kind of scoring. And that's really interesting how this self-evaluation works. Honestly, I don't believe in the self-evaluation. It's too ripe for being gamed. Some people chose to be honest, sometimes they don't. It's kind of just a silly thing to put in, I think. It's just for drama, really. And I'm kind of surprised anyone participates in it at all. And then you get to the global judges and the live judges. Now, once again, they pretty much voted in line with each other. In terms of the global judges and live judges, we call them, every single person going down the list was in the exact same position. So they put Hyolyn first, Luna second, Cosmic Girls third, VIVIZ fourth, Kep1er fifth, and Brave Girls in sixth place. And that explains the scoring and the distribution of these points. And so this is the score we end up with. And all of these are weighted enough to overcome everything, and that's basically from 1 to 6, this is the final ranking anyways. And then we just go to the total, and what we have is 10,000 points, perfect score for Hyolyn, Luna having 6,400, Cosmic Girls having 5,003. Now I'm kind of obviously this is not the aggregated scores from round 1 and round 2, so I'm kind of curious about what happens when Luna adds their 0 points from the last round, and then, or whatever minimum that you get for not being able to score because of their COVID situation. And I'm just curious about where that places them. And so right next, I'm going to aggregate last week's stuff with this week's stuff to see just where they might be sitting. I'm not entirely sure how the final scoring works, but I'm doing this for kind of just for kicks and giggles, really. So we're now back with the aggregate ranking. So obviously this is just the same. This is round 2's ranking I just showed you. You can see the totals on the right side, right? And then you go back to the round 1 final rankings, and obviously Luna has nothing. And so that puts them at a disadvantage in terms of like their total point score total. And then also you have the other people's scores. So let's just compare it side by side. And the way it works is that in the end, for Queendom season 1 at least, the total point score is out of 100,000. And a huge chunk of that has to do with sales on the final digital releases of their comeback singles, as well as text-based voting. So I'm not sure how the total finals will work for season 2, but if it's anything like the same as season 1, it's basically just adding them up. I assumed maybe it would be an average, and in that respect, they could give Luna a break here by not appearing in the first round. But unfortunately, it's purely addition. And so, in the current final rankings, Luna is actually in last place, but they're not trailing very far behind Brave Girls. Now, Luna has a sixth place loss, and I believe Brave Girls also has a 6th place loss in the second round. And so, for the third rounds going into there, if any of Luna or Brave Girls loses again, they should be eliminated from the show according to the rules. But I'm not sure how that applies to Luna because they were sick. But I'm just guessing that they're just gonna say, hey, you guys made a choice because it ultimately was their choice to not perform. And that's kind of where they just took the L, basically. So, looking at the current finals, you can see that Hyolyn, with a perfect ranking so far, she's in first place. Cosmic Girls are trailing in second place by a whopping, it's like 6,500 points, basically. Or is that 7,500? 7,500 points, just roughly. And so they're almost like, they're only about 60% of the way, just roughly, or maybe even less than that, but they're very far from the 20,000 that Hyolyn is at. Now, right behind them is VIVIZ, and then you have Kep1er, Brave Girls, and Luna. So it's not looking good for Luna so far, but in terms of the next round, round 3, the point total should be around 15,000 as a possible gain. And so, just getting 15,000, and if these gaps in the scores are anything to go by, you could easily gain up on anybody very quickly. And of course, after that, you have to worry about the comeback singles and also the on text-based voting, or probably app-based voting this time around. And so this is where we're sitting so far. And even though Luna has a huge disadvantage, it's not they're not even that far behind compared to Brave Girls. And so it could still be like anyone's game at this point. Considering that if Luna gets 15,000 points, it's reasonable to assume if Hyolyn got second place, she would only be 3,000 points below that, so she'd get 12,000. That's 32,000 for Hyolyn, and about 20,000 for Luna, and that's already a quick catch-up. And after that, you just gotta worry about how good is your comeback single, and how big is your online fan base, and how are they gonna vote for you. That's what it's gonna come down to at the end of the day. So it's just better for these guys not to get eliminated. So before we talk about round 3, predictions, preview, spoilers, I do have a few final notes for round 2. I wanted to touch upon how once again we have the global judges and live judges voting exactly the same. They obviously aren't seeing the exact same thing, so I have to wonder if there's a bigger impact from ideological factors at play, or if there's some cultural mental game at play as well. Another note is that the live chat during the show were very disappointed in the scoring. When Brave Girls were in last place, they all cried that the show was rigged. They said Brave Girls did so well though. They all wondered how VIVIZ kept scoring high. I also found it interesting how the live chat was mostly on the same page here. And so with that, that's final notes for round 2, and now we'll get into round 3, the unit round. So each group chooses a member of their group, one vocalist and one dancer, to go on this next mission. In a previous episode, I said it would be a game changer when Bona showed up for Cosmic Girls in, I guess, round 3. But I actually didn't consider the limitations of round 3 at the time, and so I don't think they will choose Bona to fill any of the slots. So I guess I was wrong on that part, and maybe Bona won't even get a chance to perform, who knows. But a subscriber asked who I thought would be picked as a dancer from each group. Now I figured that since groups also have to send vocalists, they would prioritize the most stable singers. For a dancer, I think they would likely send either a center or a main dancer, with choreography skills being a tiebreaker. My predictions are in the comments of the previous video, so I will briefly go over what I predicted and what we can see from the spoilers. For Hyolyn, she's got an amazing vocal range, and I think it would be easier to find a substitute dancer than to look for a better singer. Also, it could be a good time for her to rest physically. For Kep1er, Kim Chae-hyun is the center and main vocal. The only other vocalist they promote in that group is Kim Daeyeon, she's an all-rounder, and Seo Young-eun. I felt if Shen Xiaoting has no communication problems as the Chinese member or language barriers, it will be between her and Kim Daeyeon being set as the dancer. Both were number 1 in their groups on Girls Planet 999, but Kim Daeyeon is an all-rounder with choreo, ambition, and it would be easier for her to negotiate for a duet partner. So I felt it would be Kim Daeyeon. Brave Girls is complicated because on my charts, Kim Min-young is the main vocalist and the main dancer, and I don't think you can compromise on her being the vocal. And that leaves the center, Hong Eun-ji, for the dancer. Now VIVIZ, they will probably use Eunha as the vocal because her voice is very unique. And Sin B would be the dancer, as she is often seen leading the choreo in the previews and preparations for these performances. Luna has so many all-rounders that they could probably just send anyone for the fun of it, but I'd like to see them send Chu for the vocalist if she doesn't have to dance. Her range is amazing, and I guess the only thing she really has problems with is maybe her breathing. Although Yves is also one of the 3 leaders of Luna, she can also sing, do choreo, and dance. And maybe Yves would be better in a survivor situation where she has to choose a duet partner. From what I can tell, Heejin and Kim Lip dance cleanly, but Heejin coordinated with Yves in choreo in episode 3, so I'd pick her for dance. For Cosmic Girls, Youngjung appears to be the main vocal, who can do high notes. Yoram was good enough to be assigned a solo and center in dance breaks twice, so I think she could be the dancer being sent. But if Bona shows up, and she's been on the sidelines for a while now, I wonder if they would just send her to switch things up, if she even does show up. Now each singer has to choose a duet partner, and I don't know what popularity contest will play into that, or what songs they will want to sing, whether it's a ballad, or something more upbeat, or something that may influence their choices at the end of the day. But personally, I would like to see Kep1er's Chae-hyun and VIVIZ's Eunha pair up for something very sweet and angelic sounding. So let's see what was spoiled on the previews for round 3. We have Eunha alone in a room, waiting to be chosen, and that could only mean that she's going to be chosen for a duet. I don't know if she's already been rejected by a first choice, but she does look sad in those previews. Maybe they're wondering if anyone will actually pick her or choose her by default. Now, at first, I actually thought they spoiled all the vocalists when I saw the previews, but I looked closer at the couch, and it had both Chaeyoung and Youngun on it, and they're both from Kep1er. So they can't be the 6 vocalists on that couch. The Chica choreographers also show up for the dancers, as did Street Woman Fighters Monica. So already I think we can soft confirm Hyolyn and Una as vocalists. So this pretty much means that, so far at least, my predictions are on track. But who knows what's going to change up. I'm actually not that confident in them. But so far I think that I'm going to enjoy the next episode, because these episodes are where you kind of learn more about the personality of the people in the groups, and it will be kind of more relaxing and enjoyable overall. So I guess that's pretty much it for this episode. Guys, I think I've got COVID. One of my sisters came over, she brought her baby with her, and then she told me later she tested, and she had COVID, and my voice has been really bad lately, so I don't know if I'm going to be making reaction videos. I hopefully will recover by next week, and then I can continue doing these Queendom episodes. If not, I will have to put up a write-up, and I'll have Nick Sama just read up the write-up for me. I have videos queued up, by the way, for at least a week and a half, so hopefully those will be able to run fine until I can react to more again. But yeah, I guess hopefully I recover as well, and not die. But who knows? I'm already quarter of a billion heartbeats overdue. So I guess that's pretty much it. If you like this kind of a video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why. Maybe I made a bad prediction. Maybe you just wish for my death and that'd be fine. But finally, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And if I survive, I will see you guys in the next video.